Right, like 6-7 weeks out from the Mr. Olympia, my first ever Olympia, which is very exciting. I'm not too sure if Mark's training with us, he's not turned up today. But it's me and Kuba in for a big session. We've got the Nitram leg press in this session. I actually think that this is the last session that I did for my channel. So I am sorry, because I haven't done my other leg session. Me and Gaz will line it up next time to do my other leg session. But I'm looking forward to it. We'll see how strength is. I'm still feeling great. Food hasn't gone down really. Condition is pulling through. Body weight's been coming down. Did a diet break and deload last week, which just makes you feel absolutely ravenous the week later, which is great. But energy's good. Strength's been really good in the gym. You just got to be mindful at this point. It's not about having weak sessions, and I'm not saying that your peak week is weak sessions, but they're not to failure. But obviously at the moment, with me being 6 weeks out, it's also not about beating the logbook from what I had in off season, because my foods aren't there, my body fat levels aren't there. I couldn't recover from it just as much either intra-session or post-session. So it would just mean that kind of I'd probably have to deload more often or just risk injury, which is not what we want at this point. We want everything that's the best possible chance for my physique to look the best. I am not the best bodybuilder in the world, but I am doing my best to bring my best to my first ever Olympia. On to legs. The reason I have my body led forward a little bit on this is to create a little bit of hip extension. When we talk about hip extension, it basically means like on an RDL where you shift your hips back, that is hip extension, because that's how you are creating the movement. If we have a little bit of hip extension on this by leaning forwards, we just get way more glute compared to if you sit upright. For me personally, I just feel a lot of my back. For my first exercise, it's probably one of the only exercises really that I do a few warm-ups on. The rest of them are pretty much 1-2 sets, then get straight into it. That's the reason why I have my logbook, because it kind of allows me to see what numbers I did last time. Nothing much is going to change. There might be a tiny little bit of an increase. There might maybe a tiny bit of a decrease when you're in a prep. But that's the reason why the logbook is a really great tool. But that is the only time that I will do quite a few reps or sets is prior to that first exercise, just to get myself warm. The best thing that you can do in terms of mobility is your sets properly with good form. No matter what.
Come on, mate, perfect reps. That's it, leave it there now.
So, seated leg curl. Here we want to keep the spine neutral. We want to stop the lower back from arching. You arch your lower back. I'm not saying you're going to take all of the tension off your hamstrings, but you will take a little bit off and you'll make it easier. And we don't want that. We want it as hard as possible. One other thing as well, always keep your kneecaps facing towards the ceiling. If they turn out, turn in, again, you'll take some tension off your hammies.
Come on. Strong. Good. Come on. Good. Again.
Leg extensions is the next exercise. So here, obviously we're wanting to get as much tension on our quads as possible, keeping our kneecaps up towards the ceiling, keeping our hips into the bench, making sure we have a solid pause at the top and at the bottom, no momentum, just drag, control it back down, keeping repeating that process. Getting strong on it is going to help you build more mass over time, but keeping good form will make it as hard as possible, meaning more muscle tension. Simple equations.
Good. Come on. Let's go strong. Nailed them, come on. Strong leg. Good. Beautiful, come on. Good. Right. Good.
So here on the leg extension, I have 3 sets. That's just because I no longer do a squat. Obviously covered that in previous videos as to why. But after this we'll be on to the leg press. And then obviously hip thrust is now a main component or a main movement for me. So it's important that that's strong, heavy, executed well, because we need a bottom on the Olympia stage. Can't stand next to those big girls without a bottom.
Spend some time on top, make it hard, come on. That's better, that's better, that's better. And you don't like that, come on, mate. Beautiful.
Ooh.
Yes. Excellent work.
I'm just attempting not to have pathetic legs at the Olympia. Attempting. So on to leg press, which is my main compound really of the session. As I've mentioned before, I don't squat anymore. The reason I don't squat anymore is for a few reasons. My biomechanics aren't accustomed to squatting due to the length of my femurs and my shins. But I also have very bad knees. Well, had very bad knees. They're not so bad. They're not so bad anymore since having stem cells, which I'm very lucky to have had. But when I squat, you can see that it's just not comfortable. It's just not good. I don't get the returns in terms of my progression with my quads when I have a squat pattern in. Since taking out the squat and doing more leg press, more leg extensions, it's obviously warranted more growth into my quads. You can see that from my comparison pictures from my start of my prep this year to the end of my prep. Well, not end, but like near the end of my prep now. And I've basically been in a diet for the entire year. Not completely, obviously, I've been in a calorie surplus, but I have been very lean for a very long time, which for most people it would mean diminishing body parts really. And they have definitely grown, apparently. That's the reason. Plus it also gives me chance to put a little bit of volume into areas that are very much needed, which is my glutes. I used to do hip thrust maybe 1 session out of my 3, and now I do it 2 out of my 3, so that I can get more volume into my glutes, which is obviously an area that's much more needed. Doesn't mean that I want my quads or my hamstrings or anything to get smaller, but my glutes definitely do need to get bigger, and they still do, and I'm very aware of that. So that will definitely be a goal in the off season when that actually comes, because this year, 10 months in, will be, sorry, nearly 12 months, so will be a prep.
Let's get it. Good. 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 Come on. Good. Good. Perfect. Come on. Take your time. Control that centrifugal a bit more. Come on. That's better. And drive. Just one more. Control and drive. Perfect. Right. Make it accurate. Come on. I've got you. And drive. Perfect. Right. Leave it there. Excellent. Well done. Come on. Come on, mate. Perfect. Right back, abs. Okay, come on. Shh, shh. Let's go. Shh. Come on. And drive. Come on. Come on. And drive. Good. That was just to help you get to that sticky point. You could have let through that. You know what I mean? Good. Perfect. Well done.
Hip thrusts are my second compound of the session. I need to make sure that I don't get carried away and that I keep it into my glutes, because I keep arching my back and swinging it, and that's to keep it to my glutes. I'm not someone that's genetically blessed with a bottom, so I have to try my best to keep everything as good as possible. Not that you shouldn't anyway, but you know what I mean. Build up on this a little bit slowly. See if we can go for the 4 plates. If we can, I will. If I feel like it's not going to be a good set, then I won't. With that first set for 4 plates, I got an extra rep compared to last time, and last time's set was a bit shit. My feet were a bit too close, so my knees were going into flexion, meaning that obviously I would get a lot more quads. I mean, you can't completely switch your quads off when you're doing a thrust, but you can minimise the amount of work by obviously keeping your shin vertical to either the foot plate or the floor, depending on what piece of equipment you're doing the hip thrust on. So I'm happy with that. Going to drop it down to 3 plates. Going to aim to try and get a bit more of a squeeze at the top. Maybe try and match the reps of what I've just got on the 4 plates with a little bit more of a squeeze and a pause at the top. And then aim for next time when I do the session to do the 4 plates, but make sure I do have a little bit more squeeze at the top, because that could definitely be a bit better. The glute kickback variation for this session is the step through. It's a little bit of a, well, it's not a nightmare to set up, but the gym manager, Kuba, doesn't like it when the weights are being slammed, and sometimes it's hard when you're trying to get out of it for it not to catch. But this is one of my favourite glute kickbacks. The biggest mistake that people make with this is they kind of have their foot or their leg in knee flexion and then they drive back. That's not going to keep tension into your glute. You want to think about knee at 90 degrees, step down towards the floor and then kick back. That's the step through. Last proper exercise is lying leg curls, single leg. It's actually pretty pathetic how much less weight you can do on single leg on leg curls compared to dual legs. Obviously the dual leg helps. But I guess it is the end of my session as well. So I'm going to do that, then I've got some carbs and then I'm done. But with a lying leg curl, I was actually watching Joe Bennett's YouTube and he was saying that one of the worst commandments, feedback things that you could say to your client for a leg curl is to keep your hips down, and I say that all the time, so that's naughty. It's more keep the quad into the pad, because it doesn't matter if there's a little bit of hip shift. And I always say that, to be fair, but always lessons learned. And if you keep your quad into the pad, there's less chance of the hip movement. The hips will always move a little bit because obviously it's a leg curl, but you'll keep so much more tension into your hamstring. So lesson learned from me. So yeah. What a bastard. So that's the end of my session. Performance was great. Obviously, I'm not getting PBs or anything at the minute, but the majority of my sessions or sets are maintaining. Kuba's having a close eye, making sure that things stay good quality, because if they don't, my body runs away with itself. I don't use a lot of assistance, so I don't have that to rely upon. Whereas I use hard training to be able to make sure that my body looks the way that I do. So the set quality is super, super, super important, as well as obviously ensuring that set execution, intensity stays fantastic, but not to the point where you're training past failure. I think so many people train, it's either people don't train to failure or they train past failure, where that last rep's just not a rep anymore, and then that just takes away from your recovery from your next set or your next session. You end up with injuries, things like that, and that's just not obviously what I want. So I'm very happy with today's session. Looking forward to a reset, recovery, massage, rest day tomorrow, cuddles with the dog, and maybe a little afternoon trip to the cinema with Kuba once all of the steps are done. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. Please like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll be back again for another session.